just start with a quick recap of where we are today. What have been Dubai's recent successes, despite the unprecedented disruption in the industry over the past few years?
So first of all, I'd like to, formally welcome everyone to Dubai. For those who have come from overseas, our CEO, Islam Kadhim, sends his regards. He couldn't be with us today. And yes, it's a wonderful question to start with. It's good to look at where we are today to then, have a future outlook. So we recently just announced our first half of the year figures for 2022. We are proud to have welcomed over 8 million visitors and guests in the first half of 2022 from Jan to July. And, just by being in the city and seeing the city around you and seeing wonderful events come back to life like the ones we're here today, it's really kind of building the picture of where we are today as a tourism and as a tourism hub and a tourism city, and in the true spirit and essence of His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid Al Maktoum. We always look forward. So yes, we feel like we're doing great now, but he always sets the bar so much higher, and that's just where the city's going to go.
So really, the pandemic forced the industry to be agile, to recalibrate, to adapt. And Dubai was very much a success story in this respect. So what would you say were the DET's key learnings from the pandemic, and how will you use these to go about shaping the future of the industry?
So I think we spent a lot of time last year and this year talking about the pandemic, and we see ourselves in a post-pandemic phase, and we want to move forward, which is exactly what summits like today are about. However, that being said, it's always good to reflect on what worked and what didn't, and the lessons that we're taking with us as we move ahead. One of the things that we saw during the pandemic was the continuous, the change in the, how people want to travel. Obviously, the obvious ones being people being more risk averse, people looking for safety, people searching so much more for, before they go somewhere and what they want to do there, and how they, what kind of values they're looking for in those destinations as well. So previously, maybe a less mature traveling audience looking for like bucket list kind of trips, but we have a much more mature traveler now, really looking for destinations that go hand in hand with their values, whether those values are things like sustainability or things like inclusion, like everyone mentioned. Jonathan mentioned some great examples earlier this morning. These are becoming increasingly more important, and so as a city, we need to cater to those values. And it's not just what they're searching for, right? It's also where they're searching. So, we monitor global search patterns for Dubai and for our competitors, as one would. And we've noticed some interestingly shocking new trends. So if you look at Gen Z, for example, their searches are surpassing, they're actually using TikTok as a search engine rather than Google. And that's crazy, right? I mean, maybe for them.
And have you got a percentage, TikTok versus Google?
I mean, it differs by demographic, but it's just, if you see a trend like that, and then you don't adjust your digital, marketing strategy or search strategy to kind of talk to now this completely new set of people who want different things, who are looking for different things, then you're already behind. So, as a city, I'm really proud to say that we're really always, since pre-COVID, during COVID, and now post, we've always been on top of this kind of data, and we're always been very aware that, if we sit back and we tell ourselves, we've done a great job and Dubai is the best in the region, and it's not going to get us anywhere. We're continuously having to reinvent ourselves, and if we don't do that, we're just, like everyone else, you lag behind, right? So I think these are the kind of things that that we kind of grasped during the pandemic period, and it was always part of Dubai's DNA anyway. Dubai reinvents itself. Dubai always, paves the way for the future. I would say the region right now is leading the change and paving the way for the future, and we proudly say Dubai's always been at the helm of that.
And so we've talked about, the searching aspect of it and the values and what people are looking for. What about how they're staying here and why they're staying here? Because that's evolved too, hasn't it? Whether it's, for work and leisure.
Yes. So yes. So one part is how they come here, and then the second part is once they're here, what changed and what people are looking for. So a couple of new patterns we've noticed. One is definitely longer stays, which has a completely different impact, positive impact on the city and the hospitality sector overall, with people staying longer. But then again, you cater to these people very, very differently, and even how you optimize your revenue strategy or whatnot changes when you cater to this segment, right? So that's been a shift. We've seen longer lengths of stay. We've also seen shorter booking patterns, by the way, so booking lead times, which means that the way we market and when we market is also different, right? And then there's the new subsegment, which falls really nicely with Dubai's overall outlook of being one of the best cities to live in. We're seeing I really hate this word, but we're seeing the leisure segment, the business and leisure. I think someone once told me there's a better word for it. I can't recall. But business travelers coming in for conferences such as the one we're here today, or the many others in the city, and then just extending their trips to enjoy what the city has to offer, and also beyond the visitor status as well. One of the things the pandemic really showed us, and this was, the quick response of Dubai government on these things, is there's also people who are choosing to remotely work from here. If their organizations or global organizations allow them to do so, we quickly made sure that we cater to these segments, by introducing the right, whether it's visa policies or just enabling this to be possible, right? Because if you don't enable it to be possible, they're going to go somewhere else. So these are kind of some new subsegments we've seen. We'll continue to see more, I'm sure. And as we continue to see more, I assure you will continue to see Dubai government coming up with new policies or initiatives that cater to the new unknown segments that are going to come up.
And you touched upon livability there, and now there's a whole strategy around livability, isn't it? This is a key focus for the DET going forward. Can you tell us a little bit about more how that might unfold? Because that would be of interest definitely to our audience here today, planning going forward. So
Dubai's vision, beyond tourism. Tourism is a wonderful sector, one that I've been working in for many, many years. Dubai's key vision is to be like one of the best cities to live in. And if I may, I already think it's one of the best cities to live in. But obviously we always want to take ourselves to the next level and attract more and more people to come and see the magic that we see every day when we live here, right? So livability is a big new, I won't say new, but it's a new strategy, but it's always been part of the city's core, where basically, we want to ensure that we cater to beyond just the visitors. Yes, you can come here, you can have a good time. The city has so much to offer across so many different pillars. But as we build on these pillars, things like lifestyle, gastronomy, retail, and then it goes beyond, right, to healthcare, to education, to inclusivity and access. As we move beyond, it becomes more attractive not just to visit, but also to come here and make this place your home. We've always ranked quite well, particularly in the region, whether it's top 3 or top 5 in terms of, the best place for expats or livability index or things like that. But we will continue to push the propositions that will just make Dubai more and more competitive and more appealing for the future. One of the things we really pride ourselves on is the safety. That's the one where we don't rank top 3 or top 5. We rank number 1. We're always been and in the true vision of His Highness, always hope to be the safest city, one of the safest cities in the world and one of the safest countries in the world, and particularly for women, right? And I always say, personally, in my job as a representative of the tourism board, I don't push this enough, right? So I always like to give this story of, I used to live on the highway on Sheikh Zayed Road before I moved, and I would go out in a heartbeat, I wouldn't even flick my eyes and go down at 3 a.m. and get something from the grocery shop. And we take this for granted, right? Yep. And I think we take it for granted, but we don't realize how important this is in other parts of the world. So we will continue working on aspects like these, and obviously, like everywhere else, like everyone else, we always have room to improve, right? If we think that we don't, then we're already behind. So we will continue to work on, all the aspects that, whether it's gastronomy or education or healthcare, to just make the city more and more appealing for people to come here and make this place their home. And the policies like the new golden visas and the new incentives from the government will enable these kind of moves.
Thank you, Hoor. Now, coming on to, we're obviously the theme of the conference is very much hooked around sustainability. Now, just sustainability is no longer enough. Regenerative tourism, making destinations better places to live, work and visit for the people that live here too is a key focus. How will Dubai achieve this?
So, earlier we touched upon the new traveler and what people are looking for. And sustainability it's no longer a trend, right? It's a core value that people hold and cities hold and governments hold. And so again, it's not a passing trend that we see. Jonathan already mentioned some wonderful examples of things happening globally, happening around Dubai as well. In light of all this, we as DET in 2016, we launched the Dubai Sustainability Strategy for the sector, which is basically incentivizes the hospitality sector and the tourism sector to basically, take on board more sustainable practices and rewards that. The UAE is very proud to host the UN's COP28 in 2023. That's a major, show of the UAE's dedication to the sustainability goals. And then things like, again, I don't want to repeat what Jonathan mentioned, things like Dubai Can, initiatives by His Highness the Crown Prince. I hope I'm not getting this piece of information wrong. I believe, he mentioned the bottled waters, great to see. But I think some of the partners, and obviously we have all the fountains around the city with providing the free refillable, water thingies. I think some partners like Jumeirah, if I'm not mistaken, are taking this to the next level and even looking at their own innovative solutions, such as, bottling facilities within, the entities themselves. And this is just, taking things the extra mile. Can we do more? Yes, of course. Will we continue to do more? Yes. But, you have to start. You have to start somewhere.
And just lastly, what role can stakeholders in the room play in this whole process? We've talked about the glass bottles, the refill stations. What will come next, and how will you incentivize, investors, hoteliers, operators to be part of that?
So I'm wary of the time, but you touched on the stakeholders. One of the things I really wanted to pinpoint, I failed to mention that during the whole, what did you guys learn from the pandemic and how do you guys move forward? In my humble opinion, one of the things we did best is the public-private partnership that we have with the hospitality and tourism sector, if I may. And it's a give and take relationship. At the end of the day, we are a economy and tourism board. We are public servants. We serve the government. We serve the city. And ultimately, it's the stakeholders and the hospitality sector and the tourism sector and the F&B sector that really, they drive what the city has to offer. And if we don't work together, give and take, we provide as much data and input as possible from our end and funds in terms of, whether it's incentives or campaigns or support. But equally, we hear back from them and we optimize and we adjust everything that we do because it's supposed to cater to them in the end. This is something I believe throughout the years, and especially during COVID, we did really well at different levels, right? All the way from the Director General to the working teams, and many of us, know each other very well. I think this is key to any driver of change, in any sector, but in ours in particular, because it's a people sector. And without this collaboration, none of us would get to the optimal levels that we want to get to as a city, as a sector, as individual hospitality clusters. So, kudos to the stakeholders in the industry for all the valuable feedback and all the positive changes that they've joined us in and we've joined them in. And I think that's the most important note that I would like to leave this with.
Thank you, Hoor. Well, you say collaborating to lead the change together in the future. Well, ladies and gentlemen, please give Hoor a massive round of applause for her time today. Thank you so much.